When was the first time you experienced segregation?
Well, the first time that I can ever remember being told that I could not come into the place happened to me in 1961 in Chicago. Now, this is just personally, and Chicago at that time, of course, as it does now, has a large black population, and Chicago basically, even to this day, is probably the most racially segregated city in the country. In the 60s, blacks had their own hotels, they had their own restaurants. The south side of Chicago was a mecca. I mean, it was a wonderful place to live, and that was my first place of choice to move to when I left Cedar Rapids. And incidentally, it was a Sunday afternoon, and it was down on Halstead Street and Roosevelt Road. Well, once you leave the south side of Chicago, and there was just a railroad track that divided this, and it was on 47th Street, and after I crossed the railroad tracks and I was going to catch the bus down down this avenue, that area became all white. And as I was waiting on the corner for the bus, well, the bus wasn't going to come for another 20 minutes or so. There was a grocery store, restaurant kind of place on the corner, and so I wanted some pop. So I walked in there, and when I walked in that door, the guy says, "You can't come in here." And that was my first, and of course this was in the 60s, prior to federal laws that changed all of that. But that's not to say that Iowa was totally innocent of overt segregation, but because I can remember stories of the generations in front of me where there were instances of overt segregation here in Cedar Rapids in reference to the swimming pool at Ellis Park, and of course in real estate matters. So my point is that Iowa was a little ahead of itself in recognizing and not so much recognizing, but not being overt in their segregation policies. I think that historically Iowa was one of the first places that removed institutionalized segregation from the school system. I think they did that in the 1800s, in fact, where they said that all children should receive an equal education. So in some instances, Iowa was years ahead of the rest of the country. The other thing, I think the importance of it is that we need to document people's feelings of the past. Our root system is one of the things that I've found to be very important. Like I said, I grew up, lived here just through my college years, and I left, and I lived in a big city in Northern California, and like all people in Cedar Rapids, you have this tendency to believe that we're missing out on things because this is not the big city or not the West Coast or the East Coast. But what I can say is that I've had that experience. I've lived there, and in coming back home and having lived a life away from here, some of the significant things about Cedar Rapids and about Iowa have become quite apparent. This is a good place to live. I'm proud I came from here. My Iowa background, when I moved to California, presented itself time and time again. People would say to me that, I'll say this, I remember one time I went to work as a car wash. This was before when I first got to California, before I got the job at the Aerospace Corporation, there was a period of time I wasn't working, and I was working at a car wash. And the positions at the car wash, the guy who puts the mats and stuff in after the car's been washed and so on, just before the driver gets into the car, he's the one who always gets the tips, right? So this guy that was the manager at the car wash always say, Taylor, I want you to work in that position because you're the only one here that knows how to talk to people. And that became quite evident to me as the schooling that I got in the Cedar Rapids school system made me even express myself differently than some of the school systems that you find in these big cities. We speak the English language correctly. These are things that you guys will find when you move to other places that you simply speak differently than some of these kids that come out of school systems in larger cities, and it will be to your benefit. I found that to be true.
What would be the best ending to this story that you shared with us today?
I think just the realization that the opportunities that young people have here in Cedar Rapids, that they have in the state of Iowa, with all the drawbacks and with all of the sometimes roadblocks that seem to confront you. There are statistics that show that there's a inordinate amount of black men that are in Alamosa and in Fort Madison. In spite of all these things, that if you just stick to the rules and get 50% of the educational opportunities that are offered here, that you'll find that your standing in the worldwide community will be a lot higher than what you may think now. That there's a whole lot of things that are opportunities that you have here in Iowa, in Cedar Rapids, that you will not find in some of the faster paced places in the country.
Oh, well, we appreciate for having you here. It was a pleasure meeting you, talking with you.
Okay, thank you.